All right, so we are going to pick up our conversation on genetics today. So when you guys were last here, we talked about what genetics actually is, and genetics is the study of how features are passed from parents. We also talked about heredity, and heredity is the passing of traits and characteristics from parents to their offspring. Offspring is the scientific term for children. Because your parents have you as their children, but you know genetics happens with all living things. So uh, a dog and its offspring would be a dog and a puppy. You are your parent and child. The dog is the dog and the puppy. A cow will be a cow and the calf. So the scientific term, the general term for all living things, is an offspring. Heredity is how traits are passed from the parents to the offspring. And then we're going to watch we're going to watch the video together again. Those of you who were in class last time, a little bit less than a month ago, right before we got out for winter break, you all know that the father of modern genetics is Gregor Mendel. But the Kahoot's going to ask you some specific questions about this video, so we're going to re-watch it again together, and then we're going to take notes on the next slide, and then I'm going to send you on your way to do the Kahoot. But before we do that, I'm going to put these notes in the chat box so that if you're having trouble copying and pasting, or if you're having trouble typing, all you have to do is copy and paste and put these in your notebook. You will be getting a notebook grade, so make sure that you are getting these things in your notebook. All right, and while you guys are working on that, we are going to watch this video. So you can kind of split screen, have Zoom on one side and maybe your slides on the other, and you can be working on those as we're watching the video. Make sure that you are paying attention because you will need this to do your Kahoot today.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire, messages that forge brighter... Hello, welcome to the Science Kit. I'm your host, Quinn Friedman, and today's episode is on heredity. Heredity is the passing of physical or mental traits or characteristics from parents to child. Now, scientists know a lot about heredity, but not until the 19th century that one scientist actually figured it all out. Up until then, science believed that your mother and your father just, merged together and a baby is born. But it's way more complicated than that. The person who figured the whole heredity thing out was named Gregor Mendel. Gregor Mendel was an Austrian monk who loved plants. While examining pea plants, he decided to reproduce them with each other. When combining a yellow and green pea plant, he got a weird result. All the offspring peas of the two plants were all yellow. Mendel wondered why the heck it wasn't a 50% chance of green or yellow. He was curious that he reproduced two of the offspring yellow pea plants together. The result was even weirder. 75% were yellow, but a quarter of the offspring, or children, were green. From all his studies, Mendel figured out that the traits given from your parents can either be dominant or recessive. A dominant trait will always overpower a recessive trait, but when there are two recessive traits, the recessive trait will appear in the offspring. The first time he reproduced the pea plants, the yellow plant had dominant traits. Even though the recessive traits were there, they were masked by the dominant yellow color. However, when he combined the plants a second time, the recessive traits of each plant were combined together, and 1/4 of the plants were green and had 2 recessive traits. To help you understand this, we can use a Punnett square. In a Punnett square, a dominant trait is known as an uppercase letter, while a recessive is lowercase. In Gregor Mendel's study, the yellow pea plant had 2 dominant yellow-colored traits. So in this graph, it is known as uppercase YY. The green plant had 2 recessive green-colored traits. So in the graph, it is known as lowercase GG. By inserting the letters into the Punnett square, all 4 of the offspring will have 1 dominant Y. The Y overpowers the lowercase g. But when you insert 2 of the offspring into the Punnett square, known as YG, 1/4 of the offspring will have 2 lowercase g, 2 recessive traits, meaning 1/4 will be green. From all his studies, Gregor Mendel became the father of genetics. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Science Kit. If you did enjoy it, just make...
All right, guys. So what type of plants did Gregor Mendel study? Who's out there that was paying attention? What types of plants did he study? Anybody? Cullen, what type of plants did he study?
He studied green peas and yellow peas.
That's right. He studied pea plants. Excellent job. All right. And I also got a comment that the video or Zoom is being really glitchy. It may be, and I apologize for that. If you're working on the Kahoot later and you've got a question about something that's on it, check back like, I don't know, 10 minutes after our Zoom is over, and I'm going to upload our recording. In the recording, it'll be like super smooth with no glitches, and you can go back and rewatch and pause the video in certain places if you need to as well. Thank you for letting me know that. All right, so the last page of notes that we're going to take today is on the breakdown of the chromosome. And before I go into present mode, I'm going to go ahead and put this into the chat for you guys so that you guys can be copying and pasting this information as I'm talking about it. So we have the chromosome, and then in the chromosome we have genes, and in the genes we have DNA. Is there anyone who is feeling super smart, who attended the last in-person class, who would like to venture out and tell me what the scientific name is for DNA? What does DNA stand for? Is there anybody who can dig deep and remember?
I think I remember.
All right, Nellie, give it a shot. I might have something to pop in the mail for you.
I think, oh, hang on, my headphones.
Are you there? What happened? Did she leave us? Hello? Hello?
She left.
Oh, no.
Maybe I could give it a try?
Yeah, give it a try.
So, I don't know this word, but I think I heard of it before. It is like a acid.
It is.
With another word in it. And then it's like a hard word. It's like a DEOXY.
Yes.
But I don't know the word. I don't know how to sound it out. Or I don't know how to pronounce it.
So Javion, you were right on the right track. I'm going to tell you how to pronounce it here in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and give you credit for it. But since you haven't given away, Noah or Nellie, I know you want to tell me. He hasn't given it away yet. He gave me enough clues to know that he knows what it is.
I know, but I didn't mean to. My headphone accidentally logged me out.
That's fine. That's
I
fine.
was gonna say it.
Yeah, don't stress about it. He hasn't said it yet.
Can I say
Spell
it?
it out in the chat.
Okay, spell it out to the chat privately to me, Javion. But Nellie, tell me what DNA stands for.
DNA stands for decisive nitric acid.
All right, that's very close. It does start with a D, and it does sound kind of like what you said, but it's not quite. And yes, it is an acid. It ends with acid. And Javion has typed it in correctly. It is deoxyribonucleic acid. All right, so I'm going to put that in the chat for everybody so that everybody can see it. As fifth graders, you do not need to know the scientific term for DNA, but it's always helpful to know more than you need to know. So DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's an acronym for deoxyribonucleic acid. However, DNA is super duper tiny. So in each of our cells, we have what's called chromosomes. And these chromosomes, remember that this is in the chat, so you just copy and paste it into your notebook. But a chromosome is a structure that carries all the genetic information of DNA of an organism. So it carries all the DNA pieces of an organism. So all of your cells have these. Now, on the chromosome are genes, and that is a DNA that makes up one trait. So if you have black hair, that means that you have a gene for the black hair trait. If you have brown hair, that means you have a gene for the brown hair genetic trait. If you have blonde hair, that means you have the gene for the blonde hair genetic trait. And then same thing goes for eye color. In your DNA, there's a gene that says you have green eyes, or the green eye trait, or the blue eye trait, or the brown eye trait, or hazel eyes. So remember, we're going to copy and paste from the chat box here in Zoom. So if your camera's on, or it's too hard for you to do the split screen, and you want to just like take a screenshot, you can do that as well when we get to the end and there's the full slide. Or I don't expect to see your camera on the whole time, especially when we're taking notes. So if you need to like bounce back and forth, that's okay. As long as you're engaged, and as long as when I ask a question, everybody is here and everybody is responding, that's fine. Because I do know sometimes when you do the split screen, your camera doesn't show up, and that's okay. As long as you guys can see me and can ask questions if you need to, I'm good. All right. And then lastly, DNA is a chain of genetic instructions from parents. So the DNA is pictured over here on the right side of our screen. It looks like a twisted ladder with all the different rungs. It's got all the different traits on the ladder there. Does anybody remember what type of structure DNA is? It's 2 words. Yes, your camera is on, Laylan. And yes, Nellie, I'll go back so you can take a screenshot. But the heredity notes should be in the chat box as well. Does anybody remember the type of structure that DNA is? Oh, Javion, you remember again? What type of structure is DNA? Oh, yes, it is. It's a double helix. Look at that. Oh, my goodness. You are on fire. Whoop, whoop. Good, Javion. All right. Coming in hot from Craven Live. I love it. Miss Pritchard's doing an excellent job. All righty, friends. So, yes, our DNA is a double helix structure, and it looks like a twisted ladder. The strands are connected to each side of the rungs, and then it's twisted up. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about anything that we've talked about today? Because that's about it. I don't want to cover too much. I like to take things in chunks. We learn a little bit at a time, and that's okay. This is the heredity screen. If you need to take a screenshot so that you have it. All right, so this is basically the introduction to genetics, what it is, what causes genetics to happen, and how we get our certain traits that have been passed from the parents to the offspring. So those traits are passed in genes that you receive from your parents that are carried on those little DNA structures, the double helix structures that are carried in our chromosomes. All right. And Gregor Mendel is the mastermind behind it all. He did it from studying those pea plants, those yellow and green pea plants. Well, actually, it was just too yellow, and then for some reason they kept making green pea plants, and he was like, what? Why is this happening? So then he studied it. He figured it out. All right. So before we get into the Kahoot, I would love for you to share your notebook with me. Most of you have already shared it with me. So if you click on share and you already see my name there, then don't worry about it. But if you have not, please go ahead and share your notebook with me and comment done in the chat box when you've done that. Share your notebook with me. And if you've already done it, go ahead and comment done. Thank you, Nellie.
What do you have to be? Like, what do you have to be?
Thank you, Jacaden. I don't understand. What do I have to be?
Like, are you going to be editor, commenter, something like that?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I just need to be able to see it.
Okay.
Thank you, Caden and Genesis, Josiah, Samantha. Thank you. I think I'm missing some people. Y'all were quick. All right, Javion and Peyton, thank you. All right. If you would like to go ahead and get started on your Kahoot, not with me in Zoom, you are free to go ahead and leave. But if you want to do your Kahoot with me, that way if you have a question, you can ask it. I'm going to be here.